Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. In this tutorial, we're going to be deploying and securing your Node.js application onto a DigitalOcean Droplet. Actually, there's already an article on this particular video that gives you a step-by-step guide on how to deploy your Node.js application on a DigitalOcean Droplet and also install SSL certificates to enable security, to enable more security on your application. But I'm making this video to do the steps, to actually perform the steps that are in the article. So we are basically going to be following the article step by step and doing exactly what's in the article and seeing how it goes, and I'll be explaining each of the steps more. I think for people that prefer to watch videos, this will be fine, and people that prefer to read articles, they can go and read the article. So basically, we are just going to start by going through the steps in the article and then performing all the actions. So I think I'm just going to skip the introduction section and then we can move to the prerequisites. Number one is that we have to have a local development environment for Node.js setup. Actually, this video is actually for people that are already writing Node.js to some reasonable extent, probably beginners in Node.js that you already have your Node.js environment set up. That is not part of this tutorial. I believe that you already have your Node.js development environment completely set up. For me, I already have that. If I should open my terminal, and I'm just going to zoom so you guys can see. Sorry. So if I should check for Node version, I'm currently running 16.19, which is quite not what I should be doing. I can even update the version. I think I already have 18 in my system. Yeah, so I'm now using Node version 18.17.1, which means the Node development environment is set up on my laptop. So we can continue. The other one is to have a DigitalOcean account. So you have to have a DigitalOcean account because we are going to provision a server on the DigitalOcean account. Actually, it's not necessary that you have a DigitalOcean account. It's not compulsory. It's necessary, but it's not compulsory that you use DigitalOcean. There are a couple of other providers out there. That includes AWS, there is Google Cloud, there is Azure. All we need is to be able to provision an Ubuntu server that is available on the internet. That's what we need, and we have SSH access to that, SSH root access to that particular server. That's what we need. But for this tutorial, we are going to be using DigitalOcean to provision our server. And then we need a domain name. So because we are going to install SSL and secure our application, we need a domain. We need to attach a domain name to our application. And for me, I have my domain name on a Nigerian provider that uses cPanel. So I'm actually just going to do all my domain related configuration on a cPanel dashboard. So, but this is quite flexible. You can use Namecheap, you can use GoDaddy, you can use most of the domain name providers. All you have to do is just follow their own steps to set new DNS records and update the DNS records. So we will actually get to all of these steps as we go on. So basically, these are the prerequisites that we need for this tutorial. We are just going to jump right into deploying our application, right into taking all the steps in the article. So let's get started. So the first step is create a basic Node.js application, Node.js app, and run it locally. So basically, we want to deploy a Node.js app. Actually, the entire focus of this particular tutorial is not to build any fancy application in Node.js. We just want to focus more on the deployment part. And for this reason, I've worked on a very cool, a very simple, I won't call it cool, I even named it very slim Node.js app. It just contains one API endpoint that we can just use to test. So I'm just going to open that up in GitHub and then we'll try to clone it and then run it locally. So basically that's what this step one does. So this simple application is what we'll end up deploying to our DigitalOcean server and securing at the end of the day. But let's start by running it locally first. So let's go in detail. So for this step, Yeah. This is the repo link. So let's just open this. Let's open this up. Okay, so it's right there. We can just clone it. I really believe you should be familiar with JIT to some extent if you are taking this course. If you are not, I believe there are a lot of resources out there to study on JIT, but I'm just going to use some few very basic JIT commands here. So I'm going to use, there's a directory where I put on my project, so I'm just going to change directory into that. Sorry. So now I want to JIT clone this particular repo. Okay, so now that we have this repo, I'm just going to follow the steps. First of all, we've cloned the repo. Enter the directory, so we are just going to change to that directory. CD, I think we should have I'll just use. So this is our directory, and then once I CD into it, create a new file. Okay, the first step is to run npm install. So I'm just going to do that straight away. Npm install. Okay, the installation is complete, which means we have installed all our node modules for the application, and then create a new file and copy the contents of .env.example into it. Okay, so the new file is going to be .env, so I can simply use a very simple Unix command, cp.env env.example, copy it into .env. So I'm just going to do this. npm run start. You should get the message in the console saying the droplet, the application is running on the port you entered in the .env file. So I'm just going to, sorry, there's a typo in my article. I'm going to fix that as soon as I'm done with this. So I've also copied it, and then I can now run npm start. So that I should get a message, app running on 5066. Okay, I actually got that message, but then let's try and access our application on that particular port. HTTP localhost/566. Okay, so this is the expected output. This is what our article said we are going to get. It said we are going to get a particular JSON printed onto our screen to try to access that endpoint. So this basically works. But then we just went straight to running everything from the command line. We are not even seeing what is inside the code. So I will just take us through the actual code base that we just deployed. I'm going to open it up using VS Code, which is my favorite code editor. So here it is. I'm already zoomed in. I believe you can see this properly. There is the env file, there is the .env.example file, there's the gitignore file, there's the index.js, which contains our code. This is where we get the output on the console, and this is where we listen on the base route to return the JSON response. And basically, this is our node modules folder, and then we have the package lock, which is used by npm to manage our dependencies. And then we have package.json, which is also used by npm, and basically carries the basic information of our application. So basically, we've been able to perform the first step. We've been able to run our application locally, and you can see our application ran locally, and we were able to access it from the browser, and we got the expected output, which is this. I just zoomed in more so you can see it. So basically, we are done with step 1, and we are going to move to step 2. So step 2, first of all, I would like to kill this application because we are going to be working with the terminal a lot. So I'll just kill this guy here. Okay. So step 2 says we have to provision a droplet on DigitalOcean. So what we just did is we ran our application locally. So we want to, now our major goal for this, let me remind us that our major goal for this tutorial is that we want to run our application online on a DigitalOcean server, and then we want to secure it with SSL. So Right now, we've been able to run it locally and it runs fine. This means our code is all right and then it's ready to be pushed to the cloud. So to do that, um, we need to provision a DigitalOcean server. Actually, like I said before, you can use any other provider of your choice, but I prefer to go with DigitalOcean. So I'm just going to log into my DigitalOcean dashboard. So I would just pause this video for now. Alright guys, so I just logged into my DigitalOcean account and I'm just going to create a new project. I'm going to go through the steps to provision a DigitalOcean droplet for our application. Provision, yeah, that's exactly what we are doing. We are on step 2 currently. So first I'm going to create a project because I don't want to create it in I don't want to create the droplet under the same project I already have running in my DigitalOcean account on my DigitalOcean account. So I'm just going to call this one tutorial. I'm going to add description, which is optional. I'll just type nothing here. Okay, they're asking me for purpose. Class project and educational purpose. Let's just do this for now. More resources into tutorial. I'm going to skip this for now. Okay, so basically we've created the project, but now we have to provision a droplet. So I'm just going to click on, we are going to follow these steps. Inside the project, click on create drop down. I'm going to click on this, and then I'll click on droplets. I also want to clarify something. In the article, I used the word droplet a lot because I was referring to DigitalOcean, what DigitalOcean provides. But at the end of the day, the droplet is actually just a server. DigitalOcean just named their server as droplets. So the droplet is just a normal server that will get provision from any other provider. So please, whenever I say droplet, it's just because I'm using DigitalOcean. I actually mean server, and then I would like to keep it the DigitalOcean convention. So I'm just going to do this. San Francisco is fine. The data center, that's the default. Choose image. We are going to use Ubuntu, but we selected 20. We are going to be using 20.0. This 0.04, and then the basic and regular, and well, we'll use the smallest of them all because we are just running something very tiny and basically for only learning. So there's no point in doing something that heavy. So I'm just going to put my password here. Sorry. So this is it. Tags. Let's just see. Learning, nodejs, deployment, SSL. Okay, so I think we are good to go. I will just create this droplet. No thanks. So it's going to take a while for our droplet to spin up. In my article, I think I over exaggerated the time. I said it's going to take 2 minutes, but it shouldn't take up to that. Anything less than 1 minute should be done. But let's just wait. Our server is up now, and that brings us to the end of step 2, which is provisioning a droplet on DigitalOcean. We are basically done with this. We have our droplet running, and then we can move to the next step. The next step is access droplets and update packages. We are going to take all these steps. We'll copy the IP4 address. We'll open terminal. So basically, this terminal, there is something I need to clarify here because for Windows users, you can't simply use the terminal to SSH into a server. You have to use an SSH client like PuTTY. That's the mostly used, and I would recommend you to use that too. So, but because I'm running a Mac, I can easily use terminal to SSH into any server that I want to, that I have access to. So that's just basically for Windows users, and I believe PuTTY is quite straightforward and it has some It's actually a GUI based application, so it's even more friendly than the terminal I'm going to be using on my Mac. So let's just get started with that since we already have that piece of information. So I'm going to open my terminal. We already opened it earlier. We are even inside the very slim Node.js app. Actually, we don't have to be here before we can SSH into the server. So I'll just return to the base directory. And then I'm going to copy the IP address of our droplets, which is this. And then I'm going to do SSH. The default username is root at this. And then yes, because this is because I'm trying to SSH for the first time. So yes, and then I'm going to enter my password. Of course, my password is not going to show for you guys to see. So we are right inside the server here. Yeah, we are inside the server, and the next few things we have to do is, I think, update the environment. So we are once inside the droplet, run this command. We are going to update and upgrade all the packages, all the system packages of the droplets. So we do that like this. I'm going to enter yes because we actually want it to happen. This is going to take a little while, so I'm just going to cut the video from here. With that particular step, we've updated and upgraded our system software on our droplets, so we can now move to the next step. Sorry, I mistyped that. I'm just going to clear the terminal so everything looks clean. So as we are moving to the next step is actually to install Node on our droplet. Earlier in this tutorial, we were able to run the project locally, and that was because we already had our Node environment set up locally. But we don't currently have that on the droplets. We have to set up the Node environment on the software before we can be able to use it to run Node.js. Actually, we can use the default Linux package installer to install Node, but it does not install the latest version. So we have to use a nice tool called NVM, which stands for Node Version Manager. So basically, we can use this particular software to install different versions of Node.js and even choose which version of Node.js we want to run at a particular time. So we are going to follow these steps to install Node on our droplets. So first, we are going to copy this. We are going to run this command on the droplets. I'm just going to make sure that our connection is still valid, and then we can run this. Enter. Let's see. Running. Okay, I think that's good. We have to refresh our terminal. So this is the command to refresh our terminal. So we have Node on it. So that has been refreshed. We have NVM on our terminal. The refresh is actually going to put NVM. It's going to allow us to run NVM instantly. Normally, we would have to close our connection and then reconnect again. But once we run this command, it's going to just refresh the entire terminal. So now we can install NVM. So let's just copy this. We can actually just install NVM version 18, but let's just run this instead since we are specifically sure that this version is valid. And yes, we have Node running. So if we should run Node version, we should know the version the version of Node that is currently running on inside our droplets. So basically that's that. Okay, since we already have Node installed on our droplets, npm has been installed alongside. Yes, that's valid. Whenever you install Node, you have npm also installed. But we also need to install a very important package because we are going to be running our application as a service. And the simplest way to do this is just to use pm2, which stands for Process Manager 2. It basically allows us to run our application as a process. It's actually an npm package, and it just simplifies running our node, any kind of command as a process. So it just makes it easy. So we are just going to use npm to install pm2 globally by running this command. So by doing this, we should install pm2, and we should have pm2 running globally on our droplets. We're going to wait for the installation to complete. Okay, so we have been able to install pm2 globally on our droplets. We should be able to run something like, let's say, pm2 list, which is actually pm2 ls, which is just going to list our processes. So that actually does it. We now have node. At this point, we have node running on our application, on our server, and we have also installed pm2, which is a process manager that is going to we are going to use to run our application as a background process. So we can now move to the next step, which is installing Nginx on the droplet. So I'm just going to give a basic breakdown of what this is. So we are going to be doing a lot of stuff, not only on Node.js. We also have to do some stuff with Nginx. Nginx is the most easiest way, is the most easiest to use tool that we can use to perform most of the actions that we want to perform. That includes reverse proxying the domain name to the application, and also that it also includes installing SSL and doing all those kind of stuff. So we basically need Nginx, which is a simple, lightweight web server to perform all of these actions for us. So in order to install Nginx, we're just going to take these two steps. We're going to run this command. We're going to run this command. I'm going to make sure that Nginx is currently running on our droplet. Okay, so to verify that has completed, but to verify that Nginx was actually installed, we have to try to access our droplet IP address in the browser. We should get the default Nginx page if we do this. So I'm just going to copy the IP address again. And by the way, I'm going to be destroying this DigitalOcean server immediately if I finish with this tutorial. So don't try to access anything; it won't just work. So this is proof that we've been able to install Nginx on our droplets, because we can see the default Nginx page whenever we try to access the droplet IP address in the browser. So this means Nginx has been installed, and then we can move to the next step. So the next step is to pull our application and run it inside our droplet. So remember, we've been able to pull our application and run it locally on our local development environment. But now we want to run our application inside our DigitalOcean droplets. And you know, we've done all the steps that we need before we get to this point. We've provisioned the server, we've updated the system softwares of the server, we've installed Node, which is required to run our application. We've also installed Nginx, which is required to do some domain related stuff that we are going to get to later. So now we can move to the next step. So basically, running other servers, maybe you run a Windows server or something, you would need to install Git in order to be able to clone a repository. But every Linux distribution comes with Git inbuilt, so we don't have to install Git on our droplets before we can clone the repository. So I'm just going to clone the repo here. So I'm going to copy this command. We are basically doing exactly what we did in our local environment earlier. We are doing it inside the DigitalOcean server now. So I'm just going to clone the repository. After cloning, We are going to cd. I'm sorry, I'm copying and pasting. It's basically the same thing at the end of the day, and I just feel this is faster. But then let's just abolish that attitude. So we've cloned the repo. Now we are trying to run the application. So let's just do this. I'm going to copy the .env .example into the .env file. So we are going to have the details there. We have our env file now. So now we can install npm install. We are going to install the packages. Actually, we are going to install the node modules that is needed for our application to run. So I like to rephrase that. And then now we can now run npm start. Let's do this first. So we know that our application is now running inside the Droplet on port 5066. So to verify that this is actually running, we want to do this. We want to put this port number here, 5066. You can see we are getting the response from we're actually getting the response from our application, the response that we got locally when we try to run the application locally. So which means this is working. But the issue with this is that if I should, maybe I want to continue with the tutorial and then I close this, I can't close this, the application goes down. That is because we are no longer running the application again. We are running it in the foreground, but we have to be running it in the background. So if I should try to access it now, it is not going to be reachable. So this is the reason why we installed PM2 earlier. So PM2 is the process manager that will help us to run any command in the background. So we can easily come back to this place. I'm just going to this one is a bit long, so I don't want to manually type it. I'm just going to copy this command and then run it. And then when I do, we can check the logs by doing pm2 logs. We are going to see that our application has started. So you can see app started here. But then our application is now in the background. It's not in the foreground. So if I should try and access it, it is still going to be working. And we can continue running. And our application is already there and it's running. So basically that's that. Let's move forward. So we are basically done with this step for pulling the application and running it. At this point, we've been able to run our application inside our Droplet and we've been able to access it. So we can continue. So setting up DNS record. So for this step, we want to set up a new domain name for our Node.js application. So I want you to observe that. I want you to check the fact that we are currently accessing our application from the IP address, and then we are attaching the ports, which is not something that you are going to see people doing in real-time application. They don't do this. You actually have your application running on the domain name. So this is where DNS propagation comes in. So we are going to set up DNS records on our cPanel. Like I told you earlier, you can be your domain name might be registered with Namecheap, GoDaddy, Bluehost, any of those popular hosting companies. It doesn't really count. Most of them even support cPanel, and you can even manage your domain name from your cPanel. So I have a domain name that is enabled on a cPanel account. So I'm going to log into my cPanel, and then I'm going to set the record there, and then we can propagate the domain name to our server. And then we can actually propagate it to our application also once we've been able to propagate it to our server. So for that, I'm going to log into my cPanel. So I'm just going to pause this video, and once I log in, I would continue. So I'm currently inside my cPanel dashboard, and then we can continue with the steps in the article. We are going to take it step by step, so we don't rush things, and then we are able to understand, because it gets very tricky from this point going forward. So we are going to look for zone editor. Instead of scrolling, I'm just going to search for zone editor, and we have it right here. So I have some couple of APIs here, or some couple of names here already, but I'm just going to use this covela.com.ng, and then we are going to move to the next step. I'm going to add a record. So this basically was on the tutorial. So add a record, and then we're just going to say tutorial.covela.com.ng, and then the value, like I said in tutorial, has to be the IP address of our droplet. So I'm going to copy it from there. Then I'm going to paste it. I'm going to paste it here, and then I'm going to add a record. Okay, so the record has been added. I'm just going to click on manage, and we'll see what we have there. So I'm going to bring this to the browser, and at the end of this step, we should be able to access our application through the domain name instead of using the IP address. So I'm going to replace the IP address with the domain name, and then we'll try to access it again. So everything works fine at this point. We can see that now we are accessing our application through the domain name. If we also remove the port, which is going to be running on the default port, which is 80, and Nginx uses the default HTTP port. So if we should run it here, we should be getting Nginx default page, which is true, which is correct. So everything has been moving smoothly, and we are at the point of setting up reverse proxy. So yes, so basically I'm going to try and explain the concept of reverse proxy. So the entire idea of reverse proxy is to be able to redirect requests coming from a particular domain name to an application or to a process running on a particular port inside our server. So let's say we want any request that is coming from tutorial.covela.com.ng to be redirected to our applications, to be directed to the application that is running on port 5066 inside our droplets. I don't know if this makes sense to you, but as I'm doing it, I believe you guys will be catching up. So I was going to, so basically at this current point, when we want to access our application, we access it by adding this port number to the front, but we don't want that to be the case. We want to be able to access our application from the exact domain name. Instead of accessing Nginx default page, we want to have our application running here, and that is exactly what we are going to achieve on this step. So first of all, inside our droplets, we are going to change into this directory. I'm just gonna copy that real quick. Okay, so this from here, and then this, and then if we should list what is here, we are going to see a couple of stuffs. We see default. Actually, it's just default. This is just the default Nginx configuration, and we don't want to use the default stuff. We will want to do our own thing. So what we want to do here is first backup default file. Then we are going to overwrite it with our own configuration. We are backing it up in case we have any issues and stuff. We would not be we will not break things. We can easily just revert. But I believe we are not going to break anything. But it just makes sense to have the backup of the initial setup before you put any new things of yours. So so by running this command, we are going to copy the content of default into a new file called former default old default.txt. Sorry. And if we should list, we should have two contents in this directory, which makes sense. And then so right now we want to just delete the contents. We want to delete the default file. Since we've already backed it up, we're going to remove it. And if we should list what's in our directory, we can see we don't have the default file there again. So I'm going to clear it. And so at this point, we are going to copy what we have on this page to our terminal, and we are going to run it. But there's just a little thing. It's going to be difficult for us to edit this when we copy it to the terminal. So, and also we need to change this your domain to our actual domain name. So first of all, I'm going to copy it to VS Code, which is my favorite code editor. I'm saying this for the second time. It's just a preference. There are a lot of other good code editors out there, but I prefer to use this. I'm just going to copy the domain name and then use it to replace this your domain. Of course, I don't want us to have this HTTP attached to it. So yes, we have this. I'm going to copy it here since we've updated the domain name. I'm going to paste it here and then I will press enter. And then if I should list the content of this directory, we should have this content in our defaults. We should have a default file, but then we can check what is inside by running this defaults, and then we can see what is inside our file. So at this point, we've updated our default Nginx configuration, but we need to restart our Nginx so that it's going to pick up the updated configuration. So in order to do that, we're just going to run this. And then we've restarted our Nginx server. But we can do something to confirm. We can run ctl status. So this is actually short for system control. That's on systemctl you are looking at, and then systemctl status of Nginx. We are going to see that the server was restarted successfully. Okay, we can see it's actively running. So what you are going to observe is that our application will now be running on this domain name. We don't have to add that port. We can see that we are actually now getting the output from our application, which means now we have been able to reverse proxy this domain name to our application that is running internally inside our Droplets. So basically that is it for the reverse proxy step. So I think we are at the final step now. This is where we actually do the most important, I would not call it the most important, but the very important thing, which is to install SSL and run our application more securely. So at this point, our application, we've pretty much been able to run our application from start to finish, because we've been able to set up the environment, we put the code, we ran the application, and it's currently running. We routed our domain name to the application, and it's all connected and everything is working totally fine currently. But then there is one little issue with our application, which is the fact that this place is showing not secure. If you should go to my article, you will see that there is a padlock here, which means this site is secured, but our site is actually not secure. This is a really bad thing. This is bad for SEO. It is bad for users trust. It's even bad. It's just totally bad that your site does not run on your site does not run securely. Your site has to be running on HTTPS. Your application has to be running on HTTPS, and we don't currently have that. If we should try to access our application on HTTPS, let's see what's going to happen. It's not going to connect because our application is obviously not running on HTTPS. So yes, we are just on HTTP, which is not secure, but we want our application to be secure. And I have good news for you. There's actually an open source tool that we can use to install SSL certificates for absolutely free on our application. So why not just utilize it and just get it over it, and just make sure our application is secure and is equal to every other application on the internet that is secured, and everybody can trust our application and all that. So let's just get it going. So in order to make our application secure, it has to be accessible on HTTPS. And in order for our application to be accessible on HTTPS, SSL has to be installed on the application, on the server. So we are just going to take these steps. There's actually an open source tool that we can use. It's called Certbot. So you can actually go to Google and check out Certbot and see exactly what it is. It's actually a software that is being used to obtain SSL certificates for our applications, for various kind of applications, not only Node.js applications, just various type of applications. So we are going to start by installing Certbot on our Droplets. So first of all, I want to close this, and I want to go to the default directory, and then I want to run this command. Yes, we want to use this additional storage to install certbots. As that is installing, just gonna wait for that to finish. Okay, we have installed certbots, but then now we've actually just installed certbots on our droplet, but we've not installed an SSL for our application, for our domain name that is propagated to our application. So in order to do that, we can just copy this command. We'll just copy this command and paste it right here, and then we'll replace this with our domain name. Don't forget that, please. I'm just going to copy this right here, copy, and then I'll head to our terminal again, and then I'll paste it right here. I don't know why Chrome is always making it carry the HTTP and stuff. I would have to remove that manually. Sure. Okay, so now we can run this. I'm going to enter my email address. Please read it. You must agree. Yes, we agree to the terms. Would you be willing? I don't want you guys to spam me with emails, so I'm totally fine. Yes, we want to redirect all requests. Yes, we've been able to successfully install SSL certificates for application, and just like that, we've installed it just with that command and just entering the response to all the prompts. But there's one last thing: we have to restart our Nginx, because Nginx has to restart with the new certificate installed, so that our application will now be running on HTTPS instead of HTTP. So let's just remember that beautiful command that we use to restart Nginx. Very simple: system control restart Nginx. Okay, that's fine. Nginx has restarted. This mostly take a few seconds or a couple of minutes before the HTTPS actually reflects. But let's just try it right away. HTTPS, enter, and yes, you can see the not secure display here is not there. Our application is now on the same level as GitHub, which is secured, as dev.tool, which is secured, as cPanel, and the likes. So our application is totally secured at this point. This basically marks the end of the tutorial. We've been able to come from we've been able to take all the steps, and we've been able to run our application locally. We provision our DigitalOcean accounts, we access the droplet, and we updated all the system packages of the droplet. We installed Node on our droplet. We also installed Nginx, which is what allowed us to do our domain name propagation and SSL installation, which is part of what allowed the SSL installation, to be frank. We were also able to run the application. We pulled our application onto the droplet and we ran it. Then we set up the DNS record on our DNS provider side, which uses cPanel. You can use Namecheap, you can use GoDaddy, you can use Bluehost, you can use any hosting platform. You just need to be able to add a record to your domain name. So you are basically creating a subdomain that points to the IP address of the server. Then we set up reverse proxy. That way we are able to route our domain name to our application that is running internally. And then we are at the very end, we've been able to secure our application using SSL with the help of certbots. Thank you very much for watching this video. I really hope you were able to pick up a few things. At the end of the day, that's the entire reason for the video. Please like and subscribe, and please help share the video if you know anyone that is going to be helpful to. That's it. I'm going to catch you guys in the next one.